Again, if you get done early, I would make note of how much time you had left, just so that you're able to pace yourself a little bit better for next time, or know how much more time you need to start shaving off of like your regular time. Okay, so question number 11 is A. 12 is J. 13 is D. 14 is F. 15 is B. 16 is H. 17 is C. 18 is G. 19 is D. And 20 is J. How many of you found this passage to be easier than the one before? Did anybody think it was kind of the same? Like they didn't really have a preference? Okay. Sweet. So that could also be an indication of like what order you want to be doing your passages in. So as we're doing these practice passages, make note of which ones you found to be the easiest, maybe which ones you've gotten the most correct on, and maybe you want to start putting that towards the front of your order, or maybe it's just like these two passages in particular. It also just kind of depends on that, so it might not be every single time you like social science passages better, but maybe this time you did. Okay, so sorry, I'll give you guys a minute if you want to look over your answers, see if you have any questions about them. Okay, are there any in particular that you would like me to explain? Okay, so I have a couple that I'm just going to choose. So one thing that I want to point out is that with number 11, don't get confused, or like don't forget that there's sometimes going to be a question on that same page that has the passage. So like the last one, the passage went on to that second page and then it had all the questions on that page. This one, there was one question at the bottom of the first page. So don't forget about that one, especially when you're bubbling in your answers, because then that could throw off all the rest of yours and you're not going to notice it until the very end. So just be aware that there is a question there, and don't forget to answer that one. So let's go through that one. The principal aim of the passage can best be classified as. So in order to understand what type of passage this is, you have to be able to understand like what these different types, like what they mean, or like what the purpose of them is. So persuasive is you're persuading someone, like you're trying to get them to see a certain viewpoint, or like you're trying to get them to believe something or think a certain way. Explanatory and descriptive are less personal, and narrative is a personal story. And so persuasive is kind of like in the middle there. It's not really super personal, but they're making it personal by bringing you into the picture. So the reason why this is persuasive, I think the best evidence for this is the very last sentence of the whole entire passage. We should demand land use planning that exhibits a strong bias in favor of existing communities. So because they're bringing you into it, they're like trying to get you involved. So they're bringing in they're bringing that personal aspect, and they're trying to get you to think a certain way. And so I think that's like the best indicator that this is a persuasive, or like that, a persuasive passage. And then number 16, so the statistics cited by the author in the 10th paragraph, lines 67 through 79 are used to illustrate the concept that. So this is an example of if you were indexing, how this could really help you. So it's referring back to a specific paragraph, and if you had, like this whole paragraph is kind of talking about transportation, the first part is talking about cars more specifically. So if you had something like that written down for that, like cars or transportation, if you just go back to that, and if you would have seen that, then you would have been able to answer that question right away, because it's like talking about transportation, and there's only one answer that involves transportation, so you would have been able to choose that one right away. And then going back a little bit, number 12. So the conclusion and the intro are really good ways to find the summary of the whole entire passage as a whole. In this case, for number 12, it's the conclusion that's going to best summarize like the main point of this whole entire passage and tell you what the author's like main point is and what their viewpoints are. So again, if there's something where it's asking for a summary or it's asking about the passage as a whole, look at the intro, look at the conclusion, and a lot of times you'll be able to find the answer in there. Any other questions that you would like me to go through?